Any baseball fans? Freezing morning, we're not really thinking about baseball. However, if you understand the game, I'm just going to explain this a little bit for a moment. There's a pitcher who is the starter, and he starts the game, sometimes goes the whole distance, the 9 innings. Sometimes the starter gets tired, so he'll only pitch, 5 or 6 innings. There's also a very important pitcher called the closer. And so when the starter can't go all the way to the 9 innings, sometimes the 8th innings, 9th inning for sure, they bring in the closer, and he strikes out the other side if he's good enough. But there's a third pitcher they sometimes use, and he's called the setup guy. So when the pitcher first falters a little bit, and it's too many innings to bring the closer in, they have this guy called the setup guy who comes in, and then the closer comes in and finishes the game off later. All right, well, when we have worship here normally, I'm usually the closer, okay? If I can put it that way. But this morning, I'm the setup guy, all right? And the choir in Glisandi, they're going to be the closers, all right? So you're getting the setup. That's what's happening right now. So some years ago in Dear Abby, there was a story. I have no way of knowing if it's true. I assume it was. The story was about a young man in a wealthy community. This was in the United States, I believe. And the practice in that community was when a student was graduating from high school, the parents would give them a car. Now, I didn't get a car when I graduated. I had to buy it myself a few years later. But in this community, that was the practice. So this young fella goes out with his dad. They're looking at the car lots. Finally, they find the car that's the right one for him. A week or two before his graduation. Come the night before, his dad gives him a gift, and it's a wrapped Bible. Well, the young guy just flips out, throws it aside, storms out, never speaks to his father again. Never again. A few years later, his father dies. So the young lad, a few years older and wiser now, comes back home for the funeral and estate matters. And he's looking through his father's possessions, because some of them will be his inheritance. And he sees this Bible that his dad had given him. He dusts it off, opens it up, and inside is a cashier's check, dated the day of his graduation for the exact amount of the car. His dad's promise was good. He just didn't see it, didn't accept it, didn't believe it. The reason I tell that story is that God too has made some promises. And sometimes we might be a little hesitant to believe them. Most of us know that there's some empty promises made. I mean, we've seen all the ads. Buy this product and you'll be sexy, rich, beautiful. You know, I've tried it, it didn't work. And we've heard that there's no free lunch and all of that. Except for one, God keeps his promises. There is one who does. And that's what we've been talking about over this season of Advent. There's a an American leader, a Christian leader named John Maxwell. He tells a story about going to Nordstrom's department store. Do you know Nordstrom's at all? Yeah. Well, he went there, he bought a blazer and took it home, wore it for a while, but he didn't really like it. Didn't like the color. It picked up lint like crazy. And so he wore it for about 6 months, stuck it in his closet, said, I'm done with that. And about a year and a half after, he remembered Nordstrom's unconditional guarantee. So he thought, well, I can't do that. I've had this blazer for a year and a half. So he said, well, what have I got to lose? So he goes back to Nordstrom's. He says, I felt like a guy that was trying to scam them. But I played it straight. I said, I bought this blazer a year and a half ago. I don't like it. Wrong color. Picks up lint like crazy. He sprinkled a little lint on before he went. But that's not really part of the story. And he met this guy, big handlebar mustache, who said, what took you so long? Let's find you a blazer. The guy took him to the section of blazers. He got one that was $75 more than the original one. Didn't have to pay a nickel. And walked out of Nordstrom's a happy camper. He told this story to illustrate that Nordstrom's kept their promise. God is a lot like Nordstrom's. Or Nordstrom's is like God's a better way of putting it. God keeps his promises. And one of the promises that he has made, he'll never leave us or forsake us. He sent Jesus. That's why we're here. He's put you here. If God didn't keep his promises, you wouldn't be here. By the way, thanks for coming on the worst Sunday so far of the year. Give yourselves all a pat on the back. But God keeps his promises, and so this morning we're going to go on a journey. We're going to listen to those promises. So let's open our hearts and open our minds and open our spirits. Let's ponder, pause, and pray as we hear this journey of promises.